Hello everyone. Welcome to another tier list. So a friend of mine posted their tier list of mainline Pokemon games. Pokemon mainline games tier list. But they posted this on their Twitter, and I was jokingly, I commented that some of their takes were bad, and they were like, "Now I'm curious what your takes are." So I said, link and I'll make vidya. So they linked. So now I am making vidya. These are like all out of order and I hate it. So I'm going to go in like order. Because it's just easier that way. Sorry, I'm just double checking to see. Like, I'm trying to figure out like how they have this set up exactly. Like they have red, they have blue. Okay, that was the main thing. I was like, do they have both red and blue? Like, how do they have this set up? But yeah, they appear to have all of the They appear to have all of the games up until Sword and Shield. Does not look like they have BDSP or Scarlet and Violet, which are both fine. I have not played Scarlet and Violet. I have little interest in Scarlet and Violet. So. But I wouldn't be able to add them to the tier list anyway because I haven't played them. I have played BDSP, but that was a while ago. And most of these I played like a while ago. Just, come to think of it. But yeah, I'm just trying to like figure out where everything is. I probably should have done this before I started recording, but such is life. So, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. Where's Crystal version on here? Here it is. Okay. I mean, that's probably organized enough that once I start moving stuff out, I'll be able to find things. So well, let's get started here at the first generation. I have been into Pokemon since I was a kid, and hang on a sec. Sorry about that. I've been into Pokemon since I was a kid. I was around when Red, Blue, Yellow, and all of that came out, and Pokemon first became a huge phenomenon. I remember the days of playing. Excuse me. Sorry. I remember the days of playing through Red, Blue, and Yellow, and vastly enjoying them. I say all of that because the simple fact is I'm not a nostalgic person. I have tried to go back to games that I'm like, oh man, I super enjoyed this game when I was a kid, like, I want to play that again so bad. and then I just go back to the game. I go back to those games, and the lack of like quality of life features and stuff like that just really starts to like grate on me very quickly. And of course, back then you don't know that those are things that you're missing, simply due to the fact that that they're so old. You're younger, that sort of stuff. I don't know if I'm saying this like well enough. But basically what I'm saying is that I do remember vastly enjoying these, red, blue, and yellow games. They were great for the time. They definitely, got the ship sailing, as you can say. But they're just not good. They're just that's just it. They're just not good. They're really not. Are they good for the time? Absolutely. If I were rating this as a how good were they when they came out, I think I would put these games at A tier. But if we're talking like how I feel about them now, which is what I'm going for here, I just really can't feel like these are great games. There's not a lot of story. There's not a lot of gameplay. The games are very difficult. Yellow especially, because you don't get the ability to, pick a starter that can actually like be beneficial and help you. Instead, you're kind of just stuck with Pikachu, and you kind of have to struggle a bit at the beginning. Especially like with the first gym, because it's the rock type gym. Like, I remember having the worst time because the only real Pokemon that they have that is like good against rock types is Primeape. Everything else is like bird. I think like Pidgey and Rattata and bug types. Like that. Literally, I think Nidoran might have been in there as well, but Nidoran's really not that good either. All in all, like, Yellow is just probably one of the most difficult experiences, like, in Pokemon, just in general. So, unfortunately, that's why I'm having to put them all the way down here. Blue was the game that got me into Pokemon. Red was the game that got my brother into Pokemon. Yellow was the version I actually owned as a kid. And as much as I love the original Pokemon and starters and things, like, I just can't go back to those original Game Boy games. When they did the re-releases on the 3DS, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta play these. So like, I bought Yellow for myself, and then I bought Red and Blue for my nephews, and I don't think I ever got to the first Yeah, I don't even think I even got to the first gym when I was replaying through it. So it was ridiculous. That said, with the advent of Gen 2, I think that's. Am I using that term right? Because advent is like the coming of, right? With the advent of Gen 2, you had silver, gold, and crystal. And while I never truly owned any of these games, the way that it went was that red and blue were games that a friend of ours owned, and he let us play on. And then my brother and I went out and we actually picked up Game Boys, so that we could play yellow and red. We never actually bought gold or silver when they came out. But my friend that had the red and blue had gold and silver. He basically kind of just gave them to us. It was a classic. Well, for me, classic for me because this is how it was. He would drop off the games at our house to play, and then never go back and get them back. So he basically ended up giving them to us. And I do have to say, I've never actually played Crystal version. But I know, it's gold and silver basically, right? I'm gonna put these a little higher just because I think gold and silver did a much better job than the originals. They were still very limited in what they could do because it was the Game Boy hardware. If I had to put these, I like to order these this is the highest in D rank, this is the highest in C rank. I think I would put Crystal up here just because of the improvements that were made. Gold and silver are basically the same game, just like red and blue are. So I don't even know that these even really count as being separate. But yeah, oddly I would put yellow above the others, probably a nostalgic reason, just because this is what I owned. But I put Crystal above because it was the one that had the first female playable trainer, which was one of the things that really interested me. I was like, holy crap, I can play as a girl, and that's fantastic, and I love that. Again, I never owned it, unfortunately, but I was super stoked for the fact that I could play as a girl in Crystal. I know there's a few other changes. Most of the changes that I'm aware of were added also to Heart Gold and Soul Silver. So I don't fully know all of what was changed and available. But yeah. the important thing here being that is this black? Hang on. This is up here. Sorry, I am confused by what these are. 'Cause I think this is this black too? Yes. I think. But where's white too? Am I just not seeing that? Oh, here it is. Good grief, I completely missed those. Entirely. Oops. I mean, it's fine. We didn't get to those yet anyway. But while I'm rambling here, I'm kind of looking ahead and trying to like organize still. Just cause, it gives something to be on the screen, so something to be changing on the screen. But also now, like, hey, look, now they're all organized. But yeah, so that's where I would put gold, silver, and crystal. And then, and now I have to rank the Hoenn games. If you are an Advent follower of me and my opinions on Pokemon, you will know that the Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald era was where I fell out of Pokemon, and some of that I'm sure was due to age. There was this period of time where being into Pokemon, which correlated with the Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald age. But there was this period of time where being into Pokemon just wasn't really seen as like cool or fun. So, sorry, hang on again. So the Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald age was a period where it was generally seen as not cool to be into Pokemon. And I don't know that it was so much that made me drop out of it as much as it is that it went to the Game Boy Advance and I didn't have one. But I remember not liking them. Even when my friend, another friend that I had at that period, like, even when he really got into when he really got into Pokemon, and he ended up getting a Game Boy Advance and Ruby, and I just really did not like them at all. I felt like they were not as good as the previous games at the time. I don't know. I just didn't really have fun with, Ruby, the Ruby version, which was what which was what he had. He enjoyed them vastly, greatly, and I had no issues with that. But I just didn't care for them, and I don't know if that has tinted my view of them today. But every time I try to go and play the Hoenn region games, I just don't enjoy them. I just really don't enjoy them. I think that because of quality of life features and things that they did, that they are better than the originals. But I just didn't enjoy them. And see, this is the problem, is like, I probably should rank them higher than these simply because of the quality of life features, but I just did not enjoy them. I will say that Emerald was better. I have a vague recollection of playing through Emerald and getting through the game, because I remember being in the Battle Frontier and getting an error when I like saved the game in the Battle Frontier. And then like the whole game just like up and like erased my save data. It was not cool. So I will put Emerald in C tier just because it was a better game than Ruby and Sapphire. And I think that Ruby and Sapphire are the best of the D tier. Like, I don't think I'm going to get anything higher than Ruby and Sapphire in the D tier. So, that said, the remakes of Red and Green versions, Fire Red and Leaf Green. These were the first time I actually came back to Pokemon. You know, I was like, oh hey, remakes of Red and Blue. I was confused why it was, you know, Leaf Green instead of like Ocean Blue or something. You know, come to find out later that Green version was, you know, the actual Japanese version, and thus Red and Green were the originals. I still call the female trainer Green because of that. Or no, I call her Blue because of that. Because Blue came out, you know, third. And in the manga, you had Red, who was Red. And then you had Green, which was, you know, Gary Green. You know, Gary Green, G. And then, of course, you had the third trainer, who was Blue. Yellow is still my favorite of the, like, original 4 manga characters. But, you know, I think I did a tier list on that. So, feel free to check that out. In either case, Fire Red and Leaf Green were vastly superior to the original games. So superior, in fact, that honestly, I think they're still pretty good games even to this day. That they are lacking a lot of the quality of life features that come from later games. But surprisingly, there's a good amount of ROM hacks out there that are just like patches that add in like those features. And I think that adding those in, you could vastly improve the games. But even so, I still think they're pretty good. The grinding takes forever. My recommendation is that if you're doing it via emulator, you know, if that's how you end up playing them, there is a save editor that you can use to, you know, go in and like set your Pokemon to certain levels and things like that. Just so that you can skip, you know, grinding 5 levels on 6 Pokemon. You know, if you feel like you need to have, you know, earned it, you can always grind up like 2 and then say like, there, I earned it, and then level up the others. I think I did something similar to that in my Fire Red randomized. I don't think I ever acknowledged it in video, but I think I did do that, so. But I'm going to put those up in B tier, just because while they are terrific remakes, there are things that are not great about them still. It's that I almost wish that they would remake the games again. But honestly, you know, they're not gonna, because they did the Let's Go games, which, I mean, we'll get to those. but like, honestly, you know, these are pretty good games. If you want to see like what Pokemon was without actually playing like the original Gen 1 games. Honestly, I think Fire Red and Leaf Green are a good like starting point. For the series. I think that I think they're good games. That's just how it is. So then we come to the Sinnoh games, Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. And people that know me probably know that I have a huge fondness for the Gen 4 games. A lot of it is that you have Dawn and you have Cynthia, and it's just a good region, just like in general. And I think they are pretty solid games. In fact, I would argue that they're some of the better games. I don't know if I would say they're the best games in the series, but I don't know what I would say is the best games of the series, honestly. So, I think I'll put them up here in the S tier, simply because I think that they're like some of the best games. In fact, here, we'll move these guys up to A tier just because if I'm putting these up here, then I would put these here. So I'm not going to change any of these though. But yeah, no, I think the Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum were terrific games. I can't say anything about how good Platinum is just because I've never played it, but I have played Diamond version or Pearl version. Actually, I don't remember which one it was. I think it was Diamond. I'm pretty sure it was Dialga. I don't think I've ever played Pearl, and I've never played Platinum, but I mean they're basically the same game as Diamond, right? So. So yeah, I think they're some of the best games, and equally as good as Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum were the remakes of Gold and Silver, Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Johto was just one of my favorite regions in general. I don't know. I always liked the Johto region. Maybe there's some nostalgia factor there. I don't know. But I liked Gold and Silver. I liked Gold and Silver. I thought the remakes were very solid games. I would love to see them do a Let's Go version of Gold and Silver, of Gen 2, another set of Gen 2 remakes, essentially, like they did with, the Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu. I don't think they're going to, but I think that I think Heart Gold and Soul Silver were pretty good, honestly. So, and then we come to, oh boy, I'm trying to decide how to talk about Black and White. I could make an entire video on why the Black and White games were a severe disappointment. Because just there's so much I could say. If I were to get into everything, we would be here for like half an hour, and this is already a half-hour video, and we're only halfway through. Simply put, I did not, and I do not like the mix of 3D and 2D at all. I think it looks... I'm not a person that cares about graphics. You know, I'm famously... Well, not famously, but, like, I've mentioned that, like, you know, if it were, you know... let me try this again. Somebody once asked me, like, if I had to play a game that had good gameplay, but, like, really abysmal graphics, versus something that had, I mean, like, abysmal graphics. But if I had a choice between something that had, you know, solid gameplay, but, like, horrible graphics, versus something that had okay gameplay, but, like, the best graphics, I would always take the one that had the great gameplay. Because graphics just don't matter to me. Except for the way that they melded the 3D. And I should be clear, you know, I enjoyed Diamond and Pearl quite a bit, despite those also being a mix of 3D and 2D. It's just that in Diamond and Pearl, it was top-down 3D graphic mixed with top-down 2D graphic. And so you never really had a point where the 2D sprites felt out of place. Pokemon Black and White regularly did these, like, sweeping 3D shots. And then you just had the, like, 2D sprite, like, plastered in there really awkwardly, and it looked horrible. Now, again, I could get around that if the gameplay and the story were good. And their introduction of Team Plasma right away was terrific. The fact that Team Plasma was there throughout, like, the whole game was terrific. And then they just forgot that there was a story going on. And then the game was over. And I've seen a lot of Nuzlocke artists, Kynim, Petty Artist, or not Petty Artist, Pio, Kynim and Pio Storia, to name a couple. The two of them have done terrific black and white comics, and they really, like, fixed some of the issues I have with the games, but it's just the whole idea is, like, that they're going through with, you know, it is capturing Pokemon and putting them in Pokeballs and such, like, wrong. And then they never give you an answer to that. It's like they bring in the villain at one point. It's like, oh, I was just, like, manipulating everybody to, like, so that I could, like, become powerful or something like that. I'm like, Okay. But you still created a question and then don't I didn't like the villain. I felt like they just suddenly dropped the storyline with Team Plasma. And again, I could go on. I could go on. I'm not going to, but I could go on. I hate to say it, but they're just not good. I've never played Black and White 2. I have seen some Nuzlocke artists. None that I can immediately name because neither Kainem nor Pio have done Black and White 2. But excuse me, but I have seen some others. None that have ever finished the story either. As terrible as that is. Like, I feel like that says something about these games, you know? I've seen so many Nuzlocks that, like, start White 2 or Black 2, then they get, like, a year into the comic, and then they're just like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do something else. I'm always just like, so, does that say something about the games? That it seems like everybody who does these ends up, like, exiting. You know, they're trying to build a story, and, like, a year in, they're like, I'm gonna restart the story, or, you know, I'm not motivated to continue this, or, I feel like that says something about the games. Again, I've never played Black 2 and White 2, so I can't truly rank them. But knowing that they are a sequel to the original Black and White, knowing that they do deal with, like, a more evil Team Plasma, I would almost want to rank them higher, just because I think, and again, I don't know, because I've never played them, but I think they probably handled the story better. Again, that's all I can say. I didn't like Black and White, so I've never even thought about playing Black 2 and White 2. I just have no interest. I love I should be fair. I think the player character designs in Black and White and Black 2, White 2 were honestly some of the, like, best peak player character designs in general. But unfortunately, they were not good games. Pokemon X and Y were, after the disappointment of Black and White, when I saw X and Y, I was like, ooh, fully 3D, you know, Pokemon games. You know, I wonder if they're going to be better than, you know, the terrible 2D, 3D melding that they were doing in Black and White. And to be frank, they absolutely were. In fact, these were the first games that allowed customization. A staple that has since existed in basically every game since. Except for Ruby and Sapphire for some reason. I think that the games had a pretty good storyline. You know, the whole, you know, Team Flare wants to destroy the world and, like, make themselves, you know, immortal and, like, eternally beautiful because things must be beautiful, right? I don't know, I just really like these games. I thought that X and Y were terrific games. Maybe not as good as like the Johto and Sinnoh region games. But if it tells you anything about my feelings towards any of this, I did I worked on a story version of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I worked on a story version of Diamond and Pearl, and I worked on a story version of X and Y. I haven't done a story version of any of these. So, I mean, that kind of can show you right there, like, how much more I enjoyed these games over any of the others. So, I don't know. I think X and Y were terrific games. They were the first to introduce the experience share, which I think is one of the best changes that they've ever made to the game. I don't know. I like it. Yeah, I like them. That said, we come to the Hoenn remakes. If you've watched my channel, you know that I did, in fact, start an Alpha Sapphire playthrough. I got 10 episodes, 12 episodes, something like that in. I haven't continued. They're not much better than the original Hoenn games, to be clear. I think the design for May in particular is much better. I still, every time I see Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, May, Oris May, I always whenever I see fan art of Oris May, I'm always like, yeah, I've got to retweet that, But I just don't enjoy the Hoenn games at all. I just don't. I think I think that the little bit that I played was better than the Emerald version, the same bit in Emerald, but I just don't care at all for the Hoenn games. I never have. I don't know. I just vastly dislike them. I don't hate them, but I just dislike them. So, and then we come to Sun and Moon / Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. If you follow the channel, you know that there is a full playthrough of Moon, and I greatly enjoyed the game. I thought that Sun and Moon were some of the best games that they had done at the time. I own Ultra Moon and keep wanting to go back and play it, but every time I start it, I go, oh yeah, it's just, I gotta play through Moon again, basically. And it's less that I don't want to play through Moon. It's and maybe people will be annoyed by this, but it's very the thing about the whole third game syndrome, Emerald, Crystal, Yellow / Blue, all of that. This is clearly DLC for this. The Ultra Moon is clearly just DLC for Moon. Ultra Sun is just DLC for Sun. It's just that it was before they were able to sit down and do DLC. And so then they had to add things in throughout the game to make it feel different. And none of the changes that they made in Sun and Moon in the early game, or Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, were different enough to make me want to go back and play the entire game again just to get to the DLC portion. I really liked Sun and Moon, and I wish that the Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon could have actually just been DLC. I think that the DLC thing that they're doing right now is one of the smartest and best things that they've ever done for Pokemon. Because you're no longer buying a $70 game nowadays, and then buying another $70 game for DLC. You're just buying a $70 game and then like a $30 DLC, you know? And I know that there's people out there that are like, well, you know, I just waited, I just didn't buy the original game. I just waited for the second one. Except that that's what happened with X and Y, which is why so few people bought X and Y. They waited for Z, quote unquote, that never came out. And I'm like, yeah, see? You never know. So, but yeah, I think Sun and Moon were great. I think their DLCs essentially were probably good, but I've never gotten to the actual Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon portion of the game, so I've just I can't say anything about it. So I'm putting it at B just to be like, they're good. You know, the Sun and Moon part of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are good, but I can't speak for any of the rest of it because I've just never gotten that far. So, and now we come to what is probably going, if this wasn't divisive enough, these are probably going to be some of the most divisive opinions that I have. Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. I think they were and you might have guessed this by what I was saying about Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but I think they were some of the best remakes of Kanto, like, ever. I know that a lot of people were put off by the Go portion. You know, you had to go through and you had to freaking, you didn't battle as much, you just threw a bunch of Pokeballs, etc. I just didn't have an issue with that. If you watch my Let's Go Eevee playthrough, I enjoyed 100% of my time with that game. I thought they were absolutely terrific remakes. Would I have preferred actual remakes as opposed to, Let's Go games? Yes. Do I think that the Go in the Let's Go games made them terrible? Not in the slightest. I think they were great games. I fully enjoyed my time with Let's Go Eevee. I just think I think they were really good remakes. So that's what I have to say about that. Sword and Shield. What even were these games? What? I get shit on a lot for when I say this, but who was the villain in Sword and Shield? And I know that, when I say that, people comment like, well, it was, Rose and his people, but they weren't. They weren't the villains, though. Like, you went the entire game, there was no villain, which I had no issues with. I thought that was really cool. And then it almost feels like you get to the end of the game and they go, oh, wait, we forgot to throw in an evil team into this. Quick, throw something in. There was absolutely nothing in the game that insinuated that Rose was going to turn out to be like this super evil guy. The gameplay was good. I enjoyed the gameplay. If there was a story, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure there was no plot to the games. It was just your standard run around, do the gyms, story. There was no evil team. Sure, you have Gloria and Marnie, which I think, aside from the black and white characters, or the Sun and Moon characters, or the X and Y characters, I think Gloria and Marnie were, peak, some of the top tier, player characters, which I think I forgot to mention that with, honestly, starting from black and white, like, all of these had, like, some of my favorite female characters. You had Hilda or Toya or Toka or whatever her name was. You had whoever it was in white. Then you had Serena and you had Celine. Like, I loved all of them. The male trainers, not so much. But I think all of the female trainers, starting from black and white, were, like, really good. Well, or even as far back as Diamond and Pearl, really. Maybe I just like all of the female trainers, actually. Come to think about it. I don't know. Just, was there a plot to Sword and Shield? Like, the Sword and Shield Pokemon just kind of come out of nowhere at the end, and you fight Eternatus? Like, that's all I have to say. Like, I don't know. There were just a lot of things I did not like about these games. I'm gonna be honest. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw them down here below Emerald. So, it is really interesting that there is such a, like, sheer divide between B and C. I'm trying to think if I want, now that I've, like, ranked everything, I'm wondering if I want to change positions on anything. Let's go ahead and move these up to B tier. Just because C and D really are the, like, I just, like, the D, it's not that I hated any of these games. Well, actually, if I was going to, I would add a row below that's like, I don't know what this row was originally, but I would, like, add, like, this, and I would do, like, this. If I'm being honest, but if I just stick to the original, like, I think it's fine. It's fine. If they get an F. Again, I can't speak for Black 2 and White 2, having not played them. Black and White get an F. Well, there's my tier list. It's taken me an hour to do this, so rip. I hope you've enjoyed, though. If you did, feel free to subscribe. I think there's a playlist for other tier lists if you want to check those out. You can. I usually include a link to the tier list, so that you can do it yourself. So feel free to do it yourself. Leave a comment down below with your rankings. With that, ooh, that really goofs it up on the screen, don't it? Oh yeah, there are links for Patreon and Discord in the video description as well. Feel free to check those out. It really does help support the channel. And with that, I'll see you all next time. See you later.